This is Maurice Jones-Drew, and you're listening to the What's Bruin Show.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, UCLA, fight.
You're listening to the What's Bruin Show, part of the What's Bruin Show Network, with your hosts, Jake Merrifield, Bill Shirley, Jamaal Artis, and Mike Regalado, bringing you anything and everything UCLA sports. And now, it's time for the What's Bruin Show.
And welcome to What's Bruin, the show about anything and everything Bruin sports. I am your freaking host, Bill Shirley.
But don't tell me one thing and then do another.
Does that sound like Bill?
No, because I haven't.
Does another thing.
I don't even say it anymore. I'm just
The
like,
old Bill. Yeah, you've learned.
I just don't say it. I'm like,
we're all trying to get better
Yeah,
each and every year.
I'll get back to
and
you.
Bill has.
I'll get back to you.
2014 Bill?
But don't tell me one thing and then do another.
Not now.
Let's go to Barney's Beanery, everybody.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, we're going to Barney's. I'll meet you guys there.
Yeah. Where's the crickets? Yeah, that was.
Mike went. That's all.
Yeah, I was there. Me and 3 people.
Yeah,
It's a great time.
that was awesome. Thank you, Bill.
Listen, welcome to the What's Bruin Show, part of the What's Bruin Show Network. We have amazing shows, not just amazing, 4 amazing shows on one great network. That is the What's Bruin Show, West Coast
Go
Bias,
Bruins.
West Coast Bias. You don't have a button for that, Jake?
You're just all about the West Coast bias. You don't like the East Coast.
The Bare Minimum,
The bare minimum.
and finally the UCLA B Team.
You must not know about me. You must not know about me.
That's right, Jake. That's right. And also, find us on Twitter, Instagram, and Threads, whatever you want to call it, at What's Bruin Show. Email us at what'sbruinshow@gmail.com, or find us on the alt-right website, what'sbruin.substack.com.
Lots of articles on there.
Lots of great articles about
UCLA
great Germans.
defense.
Bill, I got to say,
hate
that
you. I hate you guys.
this whole X thing, I personally like to call it La Twitex.
La Twitex. Oh, La Twitex.
Oh, there you
Oh,
go.
that's really
A
good.
combination of all.
He's about to start charging people.
I will say
God.
this on our Substack. Like, if you subscribe to the Patreon, like you'll get all the audio content that we do, whether it's the Mallcast or the regular shows that we do on Substack. You don't have to be a paid subscriber, but we also post articles on there occasionally. Like I did one before the season started about how good the defense should be this year, and I'm going to do another one I think this week about how it is after the non-con season's concluded. Which, here's a clue: it's performing very well, even though the competition is not great.
That's right. That's right. And you can hear more about that. So make sure you join Patreon and or just check us out on Substack. Also, Jake has taken in his producer skills to the next level and put us on YouTube. That's right.
That's right.
YouTube. Okay. How do you find us? Search What's Bruin Show on YouTube.
And please subscribe to that channel too. Like
What do they call? Smash the like button.
that one, yeah.
That's what they all
What?
say. They all say.
They all
that.
say smash the like button. Wait, like it would be great if you smash the like button, but really at this point, just subscribe, and then we'll move on from there.
Oh, screw those kids. I just came up with something right now.
What is it?
Crunch the sub.
Oh yeah,
Oh,
I like it.
Crunch the
sub.
subscription button.
There
Crunch-
it is.
Crunch the sub, bro.
Screw you,
It's kind of like
kids.
you sound a little bit Pauly Shore-ish there, Mike, with like Wheeze the Juice.
Oh, there it is.
do you
That's
say,
it.
like,
That is a
crunchy?
90s reference for all you youngins out there. A 90s reference.
We got Bruins, y'all.
Is he still alive?
He is.
Okay, cool.
He's cleaned up a bit.
Oh, has he?
He
okay,
has.
very good. Very good.
I would after the jury.
Yeah,
Juror. That was
The juror.
just horrible.
but
horrible.
Biodome was lit. Come on.
Biodome was amazing, and so was Encino Man.
Yeah. Oh, come on.
Oh God. Listen, Jake also put some stuff on. He has some merch. We actually have swag now.
We do.
We have
Well,
swag.
we had merch before, but it was like I had to order it and then
No,
have
here-
it physically shipped here.
And I'm
then
looking at it
it's
right
over here
now.
behind this box.
But now you can pick your own.
You can pick your own. So thank you, Jake.
A variety of merchandise that you could have the What's Bruin or the other What's Bruin Show Network
By the way,
logos on.
Violet, my oldest, she
Yes.
wants a mug.
That's awesome.
I'm like, I will get that for you, dear.
But like, yeah, the mugs, shirts, sweaters, sweatpants, all those things. Molly wants sweatpants. Just make sure, like,
What's with kids in sweatpants these days? What
they,
the hell?
They like sweatpants. Just make sure whatever you're buying, like that site, My Locker has their own merchandise, and some of it is, the cheaper stuff is, lesser quality, and the more expensive stuff is higher quality. Just make sure that you're getting the item that you want in the quality that you want, and it
Yes.
should come out pretty good. Like
It should.
Jamaal
Yeah,
just bought some,
exactly, yeah.
and I think he liked how it looked. So yeah,
That's awesome. And you can find that link on the What's
show
Bruin
notes.
Show link on YouTube. That's what you can find.
on YouTube or in the show notes of this podcast.
That's right. That's right. All right. So, listen, we always have to do this, and this has been great because we've been getting some phone calls. We want to continue getting those phone calls. I like it because I guess the Bruins are winning. Yeah, that's right. That number to keep calling and to leave your messages that we'll play on the show is 805-399.
4WBS.
Suck it, raining Troy.
Suck it, raining of Troy. All right. Let's now get on with the game that was.
Blue 32, Blue 32, California, California, hey, football.
That was.
All right, guys. Let's talk about Game 3 of the UCLA football season 2023. UCLA beats North Carolina Central University 59-7. Once again, 59-7. And
Sorry,
Bruins.
really quick. I don't want to knock school like FBS schools, but
FCS.
One FCS. One of the funniest tweets that someone
HBCU.
sent to me
Rise up
while
North
the game
Carolina.
was happening was I think I was commenting on how UCLA had a huge advantage in the total offense, and someone wrote to me, he goes, well, yeah, of course, when you play a team with two directions in their names, you're obviously going to win. I was
That's
like,
right.
The old double directional.
That's not cool, but
So true.
Yeah.
It's very
but that halftime show was amazing. They killed it.
Oh,
Just,
good.
Just like last year.
Very good.
It was
It was
freaking fantastic. But
Oh, that is awesome.
But yeah,
Well, let's talk about that,
but
Mike.
yeah,
So,
UCLA did dismantle this.
yeah,
team.
let's say we could talk about it. It's 59-7. Let's get into Mike to talk about some of his thoughts on it. I saw it on TV. I was not able to make it to the game, but I did see a lot of fireworks in the first couple minutes. In fact, Jake talked about it in his post game, which was very good.
It was
he
insane.
He was late with
Like-
Phil, right? Phil was just a little bit. Phil was
Walked in like a minute and 20 late,
a
and we
minute
missed
and
two
20
scores.
late, and you missed two scores already. That's how quickly this thing changed. It was a nice pass from Dante Moore. Do you want more? And then go ahead, hit it.
Which was interesting because, like, you and I, Bill, have not really paid attention to time of possession. Jake has been on top of time of possession. He talked about how UCLA scored, 21 points in 10 minutes
Yeah.
against San Diego State. It was even better.
It was like 370 yards.
It was
Yeah.
something, God, what was it? Like
Well, 4 minutes
21
in the
points,
first quarter. They
21
scored 35
points
points.
in like 6 minutes.
So
That's crazy.
Yeah, and 35 points in 4 minutes.
in
Yes,
4
there
minutes.
you
So
go.
I mean,
There
it
you
was
go.
probably one of the
Ridiculous.
quickest. It's fast strike offenses I've seen in a long time, or if ever, from UCLA. So that was
they
good.
broke a record. The 35 points in the first quarter was the most UCLA has ever scored in any
Ever.
quarter.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Ever.
thanks for digging up that stat, Mike. I was texting Mike at the game like, dude, this has got to be some sort of record.
Dude, you have so many people were texting me and like asking me for information. Hey, when did this happen? When did this happen? Hey, can you look into this? Tracy, I'm like, okay, guys, I'm trying to look at the game. I'll get back to you. Because even Jake, he asked, hey, when was the last time UCLA shut out a team?
Mike Regalado.
And I don't think I got back to you until 20 minutes later. And by
I
that time,
forgive
I
you.
think Ben Bolch had already
Yeah.
posted it because UCLA was on track to break so many records. They didn't get there, which Chip Kelly doesn't do that. If anything, we've learned in
Well, they literally shut it down. That's
Yeah,
why
pretty much, yeah.
they played 5 quarterbacks.
He's not gonna
only
run
4
it
of them
up.
through a pass. But it was one of those games where even though all they were doing was calling run plays, they were still going to score points just
Yeah.
because there was nothing that NCCU could do to stop them at all, right?
Yeah.
What was NCCU's record coming into this game? Do you guys know that?
2-0.
They were
They were
2-0. Oh, so they were living on
But
the
they
victory
like,
train as
like
well.
like UCLA, they played teams in their
It's just a different paradigm,
yeah, but in their
order of magnitude.
world of
bigger.
football, they played teams that were of lesser talent.
Yeah, of course.
And they're going to be a good team in their conference. Well, I don't know.
Oh, they definitely- yeah.
Except for we injured their quarterback, so that's not great for them.
No.
But other than that,
Sorry.
but we gave him $700,000.
the fun that's right. The funnest stat for me, other than the 35 points in 4 minutes, was the 13 plays. I said this on the post game, but 13 plays, the first 13 plays. They had 5 first downs and 5 touchdowns on their first 13 plays. That was pretty lit.
It was, yes.
Bill,
And-
what'd you think about the game?
Well, here, I mean, look, the game was. It wasn't really exciting. I'm sorry.
No.
It was pretty boring, and even the telecast that I saw, I turned up the volume to hear if it was the crowd, cheering anymore. No, it was silent. Everyone was like on their cell phones. It was just seeing.
It wasn't silent. We were into it
the
at the
first
beginning,
quarter.
but
No.
but there weren't that many people in there.
Let me just say this: the second half. How about that?
Sure.
The second half,
Exactly.
it was just like these crickets did.
Exactly, because
much
after 35 points, I think they scored 2 touchdowns. I'm going to look into that. 2 touchdowns in the second quarter, and then by halftime, there were a few of us in the press box looking around, going, "Can we just end it?
Yeah.
Do we have to do the second half?"
Running clock.
Yeah. So they had that. They let up on their attack, and that's known by the fact that UCLA had 101 players participate in this game.
Yeah.
They had 5 quarterbacks participate in this game. There was something like over 10 players caught a ball, I believe. I should have had these stats ready, but the fact that,
which is what it should have been. Everybody plays.
exactly.
So what do you guys think? What do you guys think in terms of what can we take away from not just this game but the first 3 games? UCLA is now 3-0. Chip Kelly is over 500.
Oh my God!
I would like to say
Chip
this
Kelly?
really quickly. It's weird. I'm putting out these stats on La Twitex, and it's just like UCLA is in the top 10, in the top 15 of this ranking, and a lot of people coming back with, well, they haven't played anybody. Okay, I agree. I totally see that, but neither has USC or Washington. Utah, I'll give them that. They had to go down to Baylor.
Washington played somebody. They just
Washington
beat Michigan State.
So they played.
Like I know they beat Michigan
Michigan
State on a lull, but they still beat a Big Ten team. And I want to say they beat a Big Ten team on the road.
Okay, true.
I mean,
but
you can't say they haven't played
I wouldn't say that they're somebody. Like Michigan State is not in the hunt for the Big Ten.
They're more of
title.
a somebody than San Diego State,
Or
NCCU, or
True,
Coastal.
but they're going through
saying
some stuff. Even
they're-
before the controversy, they were kind of heading downward.
I'm just saying,
talent level though,
you
Mike,
can't say
is
Washington
still-
ain't playing nobody.
But even still, I wouldn't say the majority. A good number of Power 5 teams have had weak non-conference schedules. Yeah. And I'm not making excuses for UCLA, but here's what I will say. What UCLA has done this year in the non-conference, the numbers are so much better, especially on defense. I wouldn't say maybe offense. It's about the same, which is kind of cool. Than it was last year.
If you adjust it for the fact that they're breaking a new quarterback,
yes,
I
true.
think we can't be anything but overjoyed with how good the offenses look.
Exactly.
Because they had one game where they just were effing around.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly.
I'm sorry, Mike.
like what? Dante Moore played what? 3 or 4 drives? Then you had Schlee come in and just Schleesh, by the way. Good job, UCLA football Twitter. That was awesome.
That was.
Schleesh.
If you adjust the offense for when Moore was playing, it's like ridiculous.
It's insane. Like who was it? Bill Connolly, who took away his he has his S&P Plus rankings. He took away the previous record statistic with it, and UCLA was. You sent this to us, Jake. UCLA was in the top 5. Considering just what they're doing now.
If all these predictive models and all these systems, they take into account past data from previous years, and then as the year goes on, they slowly trim away last year's data or previous year's data and go with just what's this year. Well, after week 2 and week 3, there's still a lot of old stuff in there. But Connolly said if you just took this season just as the first 3 games, UCLA is as good as anybody, basically.
But Bill,
yeah,
can we trust that?
I don't know how much you can trust it. Like you said, I mean, anytime you have 100, how many did you say? 101?
101
players play in a game
field.
that is like playing like a high school team. So, no offense to NCCU, but it's I don't know how much you can take away from it. I think the jury's still out, right, until they play Utah, which is we'll talk about in a second here. But I liked how they looked against San Diego, right? Which is a more talented team than I guess in terms of level wise, and then NCCU. I like Coastal Carolina, which actually Coastal Carolina
they're
won.
competitive.
They're competitive, and
Yeah.
I believe they won. Aren't they? What are they? Are they 2-1 now?
I believe so. Yes.
Yeah. So
They are.
So it's that was good to see, but overall I still think the jury's out on UCLA, especially on the defensive side, because right now. I bet you $10 are the UCLA defense. Their stats are looking pretty gaudy, right? They're looking pretty gaudy, and I just
they're so ballooned right
now. So
it's like,
and so I want to see what they look like after Utah.
Exactly.
And like I said earlier, I did want to come back to this. Chip Kelly is over 500, right? For the first time
Chip
in
Kelly?
his career.
By one game.
By one game. What is that? What is that score? Or what is that?
30
ratio?
and 29?
30 to 29 in terms of wins to losses for Chip Kelly. Guys, are you happy about this? Are you a little impatient? Are you good? Jake, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I do want to go back a little bit to like the number one. As of right now, in this moment, I am happy with where the program is at, and I think it's on good footing as they're going to head off to the Big Ten. There's a lot of things we can point to that are like, oh yeah, we should be excited about this. Most importantly is this. I mean, they're just in good shape going, figuring they got, at least a couple more years after this year, they have that in place, and then they can work around that. But I want to get back a little bit to the quality of the competition this year. So far, heading into the conference schedule. And I would just point out a few things. Number one, it is easy to say they haven't played nobody because they ain't played nobody, right? Relative to some of the other teams in the Pac-12.
Yeah.
Utah's played Florida and Baylor, even though Florida and Baylor, like Florida looked like dog shit against Utah, but then they looked pretty darn good beating Tennessee.
Yeah.
But then again, Tennessee, we don't know if they're any good, right? Baylor looked terrible all year long, and they barely and Utah barely beat them. So it's like there's a lot of qualifications, but still – Utah played 2 Power 5 teams, so you can't really take it away from them. Washington played Michigan on the road. You can't really take it away from them, right? But when you look at how easy the UCLA schedule was this year, and you kind of compare it to last year, how easy that schedule was.
It looks like it's getting increasingly tougher.
Yeah, but the non-con's only going to be so difficult considering you're playing a Sun Belt team, you're playing a Mountain West team, and you're playing a FCS team, right? Given that that's what their schedule was, and by the way, it's not their fault. Blame Michigan, right? But given that's what their schedule was, this year, even more so than last year, can you guys agree that they knocked this fucking schedule out of the park?
Yeah.
I mean, you take Coastal and you adjust it for the fact that they didn't have a starting quarterback. They're trying to figure out the Garbers versus Moore, and they got that answer, during that game. But they were kind of fucking around on offense during that game, and they still end up dominating that game from, the fourth quarter was completely UCLA. The defense completely locked down. A veteran quarterback who basically after Coastal, I can't remember his name, Mick something or other, McLean, whatever. But Coastal was at 65% passing, 6.7 yards per attempt, and the guy threw 2 interceptions for the first time in his career versus the Bruins. Since then, he's been at 73%, 11.1 yards per attempt, and he's thrown 5 TDs and no interceptions, right?
Yeah.
So that doesn't mean nothing, right? Yeah, Coastal was an overmatched opponent, but UCLA still beat them worse than they're probably going to get beat throughout this season at this point, right?
Yeah.
UCLA put a whooping on them, and that was when they were screwing around with their quarterback controversy. When you look at San Diego State is not any good. Their offense is so trash. However, when you look at how we played them, right, we held them to like 2 yards per rush. San Diego State, afterwards, they averaged, in like 50% passing, they've averaged 64% passing versus their other 3 opponents, and they've thrown, and against Oregon State University,
that's what I was going to
who
say.
they just played last week.
Yeah.
The Bruins held them to like 5 yards per attempt on their passing. They threw them for 8 yards per attempt versus OSU, right?
Yeah.
So there are things, and it might not turn out to be anything. Maybe we play OSU, and OSU is a far superior team, and they kick our ass. But there are things you can point to say, like, even though the Bruins had a layup schedule, they freaking didn't lay it up. They fucking dunked it, right? I mean, and this year it feels like that even more so than last year. Because remember, last year they were dealing with a pretty good South Alabama team. They ended up luckily winning.
Barely.
Like, there was none of that this year.
Yeah.
Like, they kicked the shit out of Coastal.
Yeah, all of them.
And that quarterback left freaking beaten up.
Which you should. And that's been kind of the complaint with a lot of UCLA fans, especially with, what was it, Alabama State, where they had to win on
the Hornets. No, that's South Alabama.
South Alabama, sorry about that, yes. Who's been doing pretty good this year as well.
Well, and they ended up being a pretty good team.
Yes, exactly. But just in the grand scheme of things, UCLA is 3-0 this season, but in the last 19 games overall, UCLA is 15-4. We're talking about how Chip Kelly is just one game above 500. Well, it is a balance of what happened in the past as opposed to what's happening now. And that's what a lot of UCLA fans are getting hung up about. It's like, well, they lost, 4 or 5 years ago. It's like, yeah, but in the last 2-3 years, they're winning. 15-4 in the last 19. 8-1 in non-conference over the last 3 seasons. The Bruins are 6-0 in the last 2 seasons.
2 consecutive non-cons. Chip Kelly has not dropped a non-con game. Wow.
Which was crazy.
Oh, my God.
Well, I mean,
How could
considering
it possibly be true?
considering what Chip Kelly started with, I mean, this is all progress, and that's what I've been talking about the last 4 or 5 years. Is like you have to look at what progress is being made. Sure, they're not doing exactly what the fans wanted in year 2 and 3, but okay, it's happening now. So how much are we going to weigh what he did 3-4 years ago as opposed to what he did 1-2 years ago? That's been my focus. It's like there has been progress. We're seeing it now. Yeah, they haven't really. They didn't have a real challenge on the non-conference, but in a way, that's probably good for this UCLA team because it prepares them for what is coming ahead.
With all their transitioning, yeah, I think this was a very good time to have a real easy schedule.
Yes.
But even so, like I said, they dunked the schedule. And I guess Mike's
Yes.
getting to the question. It's to Bill's question he asked a minute ago. It's like, really, I'm happy they're here now. Do I know if do I think it was worth it to go through what we went through those first 3 years? Remember that?
We were going to shut this down about 3 years ago, people.
We literally were threatening to shut the show down if they, when they were losing these games. The starting 0-6, starting 1-5. That was absolutely miserable. But I don't know if we needed to do that. I don't know if it had to be that much of a strip down, but it was. And so now here we are. And are we happy with this team right now? I am. I think it's a great team. And I think they have a good chance to do some good things in a very good Pac-12. And it is kind of ironic and sad that in the last year of the Pac-12, which we'll talk about a little later, but in the last year of the Pac-12, the Bruins have their best team under Chip Kelly, and it may be for nothing because, oh my God, the Pac-12 is fucking loaded. So, we'll have to see. Let the chips fall where they may. But I think if the Pac-12 is going to be as good as it's ever been, this is a pretty good Bruin team to kind of head into the breach.
Yeah.
Right? So
I just want to add, too, I'm not trying to be chippy or about
Mike.
certain things that
Don't be
people
chippy.
put on the social media, but, I mean, it does talk –
Kelly?
it does speak to what is going on right now. Like, I just put out stats. I didn't have an opinion. I was just like, here's what UCLA has done in this last game. And someone said, don't read too much into it. And I'm like, and that's true. But if UCLA had really horrible stats, everybody would be reading into it about
No doubt.
how bad they are. So you just kind of have to pick your battles with what's going on with UCLA right now. But I will agree with what we've been talking about off air, what a lot of people are saying. The true test of the season of this team starts this Saturday.
No, it absolutely does. And Bill, I know you want to move on. We want to get on to the game that will be this is the biggest game of UCLA season this year.
Mm-hmm.
Huge game on the road at Rice Eccles. None of us are going, which is sad, but here it is. But before we do that, man, there are some crazy stats. And by the way, can we all agree that now that Dante Moore is your starter, I don't think there's any doubt about it, right?
I mean,
How do you like Moore as your starter, right? Because he is. There's no doubt about it.
dude's a baller.
Yeah. But Bill, what are you thinking about Moore so far? Like talking about the offense just a little bit. What's your favorite part of the offense? What struck you the most about these guys?
Okay, well, for Moore, it's his calm nature, calm demeanor is what
It's so easy for him, isn't it?
It's
Even
just
in post game, did you hear his post game? The guy is just so composed.
Yeah, so I mean, I like his
Polished.
he's composed in even under pressure. Even when he had the ball stripped near the San Diego end
Goal
zone,
line.
he wasn't like some players.
Bill was the 4-inch line.
Oh yeah, God.
Don't you forget.
Oh my God, that was so funny. It was crazy. He wasn't like some quarterbacks will take off their helmet, and yell, "Son of a!"
Rattled.
Get really rattled. He was just like, okay, and just
right.
move on.
This is happening.
Yeah, it was really cool to see. So I know people are like, oh, his throws is this. I like his calm demeanor because if he's calm, if the leader's calm, everyone else is calm.
That is a very good point.
Yeah,
It
so-
really is
yes.
striking too.
Yeah. So it's really cool to see. Really cool to see that. That's what I've taken on the offensive side. Defensively, yeah, still I like the front line. I like the linebackers. I like our strong safety, Kamari Ramsey.
Yeah.
We know you do. He's one of Bill's magic men.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Magic man.
Okay, so with that being said, right, I think, would it be fair to say, guys, knowing what we know about Chip Kelly, his time at UCLA, seeing what we've seen from this offense so far, are we relatively confident that UCLA has a good offense this year no qualifications whatsoever.
Yeah, and my thing is like, especially with Tim
yes.
Drevno and Chip Kelly, who is just always Chip Kelly.
Kelly?
They would find a way to make this offense work, and luckily they had a soft non-conference to try out all these things. By the way, I'm loving the T formation running back, the T formation.
They're getting a lot of mileage out of
that. No, I really had no, especially after spring, seeing what they brought in. I figured Chip Kelly would have this thing figured out within 3, 4, or 5 games.
One look, and even from basically from halfway through the first year, and then most of the second year, and then on to the third, fourth, fifth years, the offense has been pretty good regardless of who's been playing, right, Bill? I mean, with relatively, do you have any qualifications about this particular year's offense other than the one asterisk of we're waiting for Dante Moore to show, even though he's mature beyond his years, to show that he's a freshman? Other than those moments that we kind of expect, are there any qualifications that you have for this particular offense this year?
I don't think the line might. I don't think the line is as good as last year, and I think Charbonnet still was a stronger featured back than even.
Of course he was. You can't say that's not
what I'm
Denver.
saying. So,
Dude's
but they're
killing
so
it for
good.
Seattle
What
right
I'm saying
now.
is, do you have confidence that this offense is going to be good this year?
No.
Is it going to be fantastically top 5? I don't know, but is it a top 25 offense for sure?
It's a top 25 offense.
That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, as of right now, God, let's just get two games into the Pac-12, then I could say more. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, of all things. But yes, I do.
Well, the point I'm getting at is there are some things.
What more could you say, Bill?
Oh my God, Bill.
I know.
My point being is, if Bruin fans are looking at this team, they're probably all pretty confident that the offense is at least okay, right? You could see the Bruins losing some shootouts this year, but they're probably going to be shootouts because they're probably going to put up a lot of points. And gosh, looking at how this team has started, the explosive plays are off the charts, right?
Yeah.
We're kind of taking that for granted. But I do have some exciting stats about the defense, which we really don't know nothing about yet because you can say they haven't really played too many people. The Carolina quarterback was very good, but they're in a new offense. San Diego State's garbage on offense, and NCCU was overmatched. But with that being said, the schedule is a schedule. You can only play who's in front of you. And there are some fun stats about the Bruins in this 2023 non-conference that I want to pay attention to because it might go away after this week, so we want to make sure about that. So let's celebrate it while it's here. Would you be surprised if I told you that the Bruins were, I don't know, first in the Pac-12 in points per game, first in the Pac-12 in yards per rush allowed, first in the Pac-12 in yards per play, first in the Pac-12 in interceptions, and also that makes them 7th nationally.
Yeah.
7th nationally in points per game.
Yeah.
10 points per game. 8th nationally in yards per rush allowed. They're averaging 2 yards per rush. Okay? And by the way, that's against San Diego State, who that was what they're supposed to be able to do.
Yeah.
It's still 2 yards per rush. And 5th nationally in yards per play. So it's yeah, they had an easy schedule, but they're still knocking it out of the park. Okay?
They're basically doing what you should do against lesser opponents.
Yeah, but and even better than that, right? They weren't doing that good this year. No, last year, I should say.
Yeah.
They're averaging 3.67 sacks per game. That's second in the Pac-12, 13th nationally. They're averaging 9 tackles for a loss per game. That's 9th in the country, tied for first in the Pac-12. Right? They on SM, and then the one thing I want to say, all these gaudy stats. And this is what impresses me the most. UCLA is 128th in the country in time of possession. And what that means is that this defense is putting up these gaudy stats despite being on the field longer than almost every team in the country.
Yeah.
Right? And that's what gives me that makes me feel good about this defense is that even though it's a layup schedule, they've still been out there exposed to stuff and they're coming up big, making big plays, making big sacks, making big interceptions, and for the most part getting off the field, right? So that's pretty good. Even though sometimes they aren't getting off the field, they're not that great in third down conversions yet, only 37%, which is not fantastic, but it's not horrible either. But you hear those stats, and how does that make you feel, Bill?
Well, I mean, those are gaudy stats.
They certainly are.
But they're, I'm tempering my enthusiasm with It's still just the beginning. So,
Come on, Bill, get excited.
Nah.
Get excited, Bill.
No, not yet.
Get
Not
back
yet.
to me.
Bill,
Yeah.
get excited.
Give me a couple more Pac-12 games.
We've all been
Bill, we need to see your Bruin boner.
affected by Bruin battered syndrome.
Exactly.
So
We all have
we're gonna
BBS.
take our
gonna take our
these
time.
lumps. We got to see what's going on.
Yeah,
We gotta
there
see
you
what's
go.
I'm
going
just saying, enjoy it while you can.
It's hard
Right?
to enjoy. It's because it's against whatever. Let's just get 2 more games. And Jake, if they're anywhere near this after 2 more games, especially after Utah, I will get my Bruin boner on.
Now, what I will say,
Well, he asked for it. He asked
I want to
for
hear. I want to see that Bruin boner, Bill.
Jesus Christ.
Now, I just gave you like raw stats. I will say this: as far as S&P Plus goes, the last stat we'll go to before we move on to the next thing, Bill, is when you look at Bill Connolly and his S&P Plus. This year, the Bruins are a very well-rounded team, and we haven't really talked about it that much. I've talked about it in the postgame a lot, but the special teams isn't doing anything spectacular, but they're doing everything competently, and that has added to the Bruins being a very good team, or a very good team up to this point in the season. And if we can cross our fingers and hope that the special teams remains pretty good, but if they do, then that's going to be a big feather in their cap too. For example, I will tell you, the Bruins are the 35th ranked team in S&P Plus this year, right, Mikey?
Yes.
They're 14th on offense. And remember, that's with one game of effing around. They are 35th on defense. You know, everybody who says, oh, the Bruins have just had a top 50 defense. Well, right now they do by any metric, advanced stats or just raw stats. But they're also 44th on special teams. All top 50, all the way around. That's going to lead to a pretty good team. To give you an example, last year at this time, they were 17th on offense, 50th on defense. So 17th on offense. This year they're 3 points better, 14th. Last year 50th on defense. This year they're 15 spots better at 35. Last year at this time they were 83rd on special teams because if you remember in that first game they had that horrible pump block.
Oh, that was horrible.
The one that guy got smothered, the worst pump block in the history of the Rose Bowl, right? We haven't had any of that this year. So last year they were 83rd in S&P Plus in special teams. This year they're all the way up to 44th, right? And if they can maintain that standard, right, they're not top 10 everywhere, but they are pretty good inside the top 50 in all facets of the game. That's going to mean they're a pretty good squad.
All right, we'll see.
Bill, why don't we get to the symposium?
Let's do that.
Do you think we drink too much?
No, we don't drink too much. Men face reality, women don't. That's why men need to drink.
I hate it when podcasters talk about what they're drinking.
What else am I gonna drink, Bob? A fucking Fresca?
No, Bob, we're not having Fresca tonight. Well, wait. Bill had a Fresca. Didn't you have a Fresca?
I had a Fresca and a Diet Sprite.
Yes. After he cooked a dinner in my house and didn't make me anything.
Eggs and sausage with
Without
sauteed onions.
I had a Lunchable, but thanks, Bill. But that's okay.
Anytime.
I forgive you, dick. Yeah, thank you for joining with Bruin Symposium. Conversation over drinks. That's what a symposium is. And tonight, Mikey's having a beer. What are you having, Mike?
I am having one of my favorites because I want to represent California proper as the Bruins, the University of California, Los Angeles, are heading to Utah for probably one of their toughest games of the season. And this is a beer. You guys, this is how much I like this beer. You know this is one of my favorite beers. Racer 5 IPA from Bear.
That is one of his
from
favorite.
Bear Republic.
I think Bill and I have bought him
Lovely.
probably
Racer
150 of those each.
Yeah, pretty much. So, what do you guys
That's
have?
his Woodford.
Jake, what do you have?
Well, Bill had a Fresca, and he's no longer imbibing on the What's Bruin Symposium. That's okay. He's a dick, but that's fine. Whatever.
He'll be back.
I actually
Wait till you get to my age. A day later.
Exactly.
You youngsters. I bought a bottle of Kirkland Bottle and Bond from their Master Distiller series. Very economical, Bill. You'd like this. It's 100 proof, but it's only like $23.
Wow.
But I made a double old fashioned out of it, and it came out pretty good.
100 proof?
Yeah. It's one of their. It's a good buy, definitely. It's a
gotta get
great,
that.
even if you don't like sipping it as much because it's not quite polished enough. It's a terrific drink for mixers,
Mixing.
and only $23, and very strong. So that's good. And I thought it was just fine. You know, as if you want to view it as just like a slightly rough raw whiskey, but still plenty of flavor in it.
Okay.
But thank you for your support, Mike. For how much a month?
$2.
Just $2 a month, or I think it ends up being like $5 on Substack. You can send the What's Bruin show into the future. You'll get special pods from me walking around the mall talking about what's on my mind that particular week. We call them the Mallcast. You'll get access to the Slack channel, and you also just know that you're supporting our independent little show floating around in the very, very busy waters of Bruin Sports Talk this year. But we've been here for a while, and we'll continue to be here, and we appreciate your support. So you can go to patreon.com/whatsbruinshow or to substack.com/whatsbruinshow. Actually, I don't think that's right. I think it's what is the Substack, Bill? It's whatsbruin.substack.com. Thank you very much. And
.all right.
Mike, yeah, .alt right. That's right. Yeah, we enjoy that. But Mike, for how much a month?
$2.
We thank you for your support.
Love you.
It's the game that will be. It's the game that will be, yo. It's the game that will be.
All right, guys, here we go. Number 22. Once again, let me say that out loud. Number 22 ranked UCLA. Going into Rice-Eccles?
Rice-Eccles.
Rice-Eccles Stadium.
R-E-S? I was going to say C. Damn.
To play number 11 Utah, 12:30. I know, 12:30 p.m.
Did you say Utes?
On Fox. But let's talk
Fox?
On Fox.
Nice.
But here's the deal.
Wait, we're on Real TV again?
You're on Real TV, but and it's a special one because it's Jake's birthday.
Oh, that's good. I need some fanfare triplets for
yes.
that.
There you go. That's Fox's
I was going to go to
present
this
you.
game.
Mm-hmm.
I was going to go to this game, and then I was like, well, the risk of going to Utah to Rice-Eccles, where the Utes are like, I don't know, like 26-2 in their last like 28 games or something like that. It's some gaudy stat like that.
28-2, Jake.
They haven't lost there since 2020.
Yes.
Okay. The odds of going, even though I think the Bruins have a good chance to win this game, I was like, well, am I going to make my whole family go there for my birthday to watch the Utes? No. Am I going to be absent from my family on my birthday? No. But you know what? The Bruins could give me a great birthday present.
Yes.
By beating the Utes.
There you go. And I hope they do.
Let's go.
So here it is. UCLA is a 4.5 point underdog, though, Jake.
Which is weird because that
I'm
started
so pissed because I didn't bet it
at
at 6.
Yeah, exactly.
God damn.
So it's gotten better. Okay, good.
Yeah, it opened at 6.
Oh, good. It's improving. So ESPN Win Predictor has UCLA as a 34.4% win probable team, I should say.
Yeah, that's...
Do you think that's... Are they pretty good? Are they pretty accurate? Is UCLA pretty accurate with their win predictor?
ESPN, you mean?
What did I say?
You said UCLA.
Oh, I'm sorry. Is ESPN.
UCLA is really good on what they want to do.
FBI hates the Bruins, so not necessarily.
But ESPN's
look, there's not
Bill
a whole lot of
Connolly.
predictive models that are going to pick the Bruins to beat Utah at Rice-Eccles, especially with the unknown about the quarterbacks and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Like, as long as Rising has a chance to play, I think the Utes will be favored in some way, shape, or form.
And UCLA does not do well in Salt Lake City.
I like UCLA to win the game.
Thanks, Phil.
So it's understandable, but I do think it's a little bit much.
Okay.
You
All right.
know,
Well, let's see.
I would understand more 60-40.
Okay. Well, here's the over-under is 51.5. What does that mean? That means it's an implied score of UCLA 23, Utah 28, about a 5-point swing where Utah is winning the game. All right. So that's the over-under for it. Bill Connolly.
Very nice, Bill.
Yeah. Bill Connolly has UCLA
Our
as
Lord
a
and Savior, Bill Connolly.
Well, he's better than ESPN because
ESPN sucks. Although Bill Connolly is part of ESPN now.
I know. Bill Connolly has UCLA winning this game at 41%. A little bit better.
But still an underdog.
Still an underdog right there. Okay. So score prediction 26-29 Utah. All right. So we'll go, with that said, let's get into, to me, one of my favorite parts of football season, because Jake doesn't really do it for basketball because he looks at basketball as just like a necessary evil.
He's an elitist.
It really is.
Yeah.
Say it.
I would like to avoid the basketball shows for as long as possible.
Let's see. So, but he does this for every football game against the opponent. It is Jake's Trivia.
Now it's time for Jake's Trivia, brought to you by Jake, bringing you all the coolest trivia of UCLA football's opponent for this coming week. And now, Jake.
Yeah, thank you, Bill. Number one, let's get into a little bit about what has happened in this series now that it's about to disintegrate, right? The Bruins are going to go to the Big Ten. The Utes are going to go to the Big 12. UCLA ends up after a number of years in the Pac-12 with Utah at 12-8 overall in the series, but they've lost 5 of the last 6. Okay. The Bruins won last year. It was a great game for the Bruins, but before that, they were like losing to the Utes by like an average score of like minus 30 or something. Remember, Bill? You remember a lot of curb stompings at the hands of the Utes, don't you?
It's pretty rough. Pretty rough memories going to Utah.
Pretty rough. But last year was a wonderful bright spot in the series for the Bruins. The Bruins led 14-3 in the game. They led 28-18 in the game. They led 42-25 in the game. And the Utes got within one score a few times, but DTR and Sharps kept giving them like the forearm shiver every time they got within like 3 or so, and like extended the lead back up to like 10. If you remember in that game, DTR had 299 and 4 TDs. Zach Charbonnet had 198 and 9 yards per carry. 9 yards per carry against the Utes. So, needless to say, Bill Riley, the play-by-play voice of the Utes, and he hosts the ESPN show in Utah. Always a good listen, by the way. You want to get your general sports talk out of the way. That's Utah-centric. I guess that probably applies to a limited number of people.
Of course.
But being in the Pac-12, at least for this year, I love Bill Riley. But this is what he had to say about the Bruins before last year's game.
UCLA's always been pretty soft.
And this.
They have a bunch of skilled guys and athletes that can run around, but when they match up with Utah, they're never as physical and they're never as tough as Utah. And Utah, frankly, pushes them around a bunch.
Now, after that game, he was not saying that. I think it goes without saying, right? And leading into this year's game, like his talking points have been, yeah, UCLA, I think they're pretty good, but they ain't played nobody yet, and there's been a lot of that,
which is a true
but
statement.
It absolutely is a true statement, right? But he has backed off of his, they're soft, right? And he says things more like, yeah, that defense has been pretty good for a couple years now. It kind of feels weird. He's been saying things like that, right? And then when you listen to the Utah players that he's interviewed on the radio, like he interviewed Brent Keefe, the tight end that's been injured.
Is he going to play? Do you know?
I don't think he's going to play, guys.
Wow.
I really don't think he's going to play because he was very kind of cryptic talking on his Riley interview this week. But it was like, are you going to play soon? Yeah. Do you have a timetable? Maybe. Can you tell us? No. Do you feel good about it? Sorta. Stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
And by the way, he's also got a cold this week, so it doesn't sound like Keefe is going to play. And to be honest with you guys, like before we get into the trivia, just like we're going to have our guest Michelle Bodkin on in a few minutes, and she's going to tell us all about Utah. But just by what I've been hearing on Utah radio in the last few days, you asked me a week and a half ago, I'd say Rising is absolutely playing, because last week they're like, so should he play against Weber State or should he just play against UCLA? And they were kind of like justifying one way or the other, but it sounded like they were like, oh yeah, he's going to play. This week, it's a lot more like, I don't know.
But if you're Chip Kelly, wouldn't you plan on Cam?
Well, I think you have to. I think you have to.
You have to plan on Cam.
You have to.
But you also have to see what the other two quarterbacks have done.
But the Utes are a much less potent team if Rising's not playing, is what I'm saying. So, of course, you plan on Rising, and then if you get Nate Johnson, then you're like, yeah, okay, we still have to handle business, but it's definitely a win for the Bruins, right?
Guys, and we'll talk about this, but okay, just get into your trivia. Let's put a pin in that and talk about.
But my feeling is Rising's not going to play, like just from what I'm getting the vibes. But anyways, let's get to trivia. Did I play the trivia theme already?
Yes.
I don't think I did. Mike, did I play the trivia?
You did.
Did I?
Yes.
Did I?
Oh, God,
but did I?
Oh my God, he's gonna play
But did I?
God damn it.
Now it's time for Jake's Trivia, brought to you by Jake, bringing you all the coolest trivia of UCLA football's opponent for this coming week. And now, Jake.
I think I did, but, Bill doesn't like Mike's themes, apparently, so he doesn't want to hear him very much.
It's a big jerk.
Getting into the more general trivia about the Utes, I brought back some oldies but goodies for our last year in conference against the Utes. What is a Ute, in fact?
What is a Ute? Did you say Utes?
The Utes have inhabited the area of Utah, that part of the country, for at least a millennia, right? Does that just blow your mind?
Yes.
How do you feel about that? The Utes were among the first American Indians to acquire the horse as a means of transportation.
Wow.
Innovators, those Utes.
What is a Ute?
They're innovators. The Ute tribe is proud to share their name and their tradition with the University of Utah, and the Utes is that university's sports nickname.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we're not going to mention the fact that like 50 years ago, the Utes nickname, the University of Utah's nickname was what? The Redskins.
Oh.
We're not going to mention that.
Oh, wow.
They went from the Redskins to the Utes, and I guess everybody's like, cool with that now. Okay, bro, however you feel about that.
I'm in.
It is what it is. The Utes have signed off, but that's what it was. We won't mention it anymore. But
They took command of that situation, didn't they?
oh my gosh, Mike.
Oh, good
That's
job.
Right there.
Good
Right-
job, Mike.
Bingo.
Oh,
We need
NFL
to-
reference.
We're going to
there.
celebrate
Good
that
job.
one. The university's mascot. Does anybody know what it is?
The Falcon.
It's not a falcon, Mike.
It's a Ute.
But it is a bird.
It's an eagle.
It's not an eagle, Bill.
I don't know.
It's an indigenous hawk, indigenous to the Utah region.
Sorry.
Anybody know what the name of that hawk is?
Hawkes? Is it Jaime?
No, it's not Jaime the
God
Hawkes.
damn
No,
it.
that would be amazing.
Mike's in Fuego tonight. Bill.
I have no freaking clue.
I should know. They say it at every game.
The University of Utah, the Utes, their mascot.
Did you say Utes?
I did. Their mascot is a hawk, a red-tailed hawk,
Yeah.
named Swoop.
Thank you.
And he swoops around all over the place.
And it's so much cooler than the Clippers, whatever the hell they have.
Yeah, there's a stupid Clipper mascot. Clippers suck.
Sucks.
Anyways, the last bit of trivia, okay? Utah, the teams in Utah, and we're talking about Utah, University of Utah, BYU, and Utah State, okay? Jordan Love's alma mater, right? I think that's where he went. And then to a lesser degree, Weber and all these other things. But anyways, they play for a trophy, and they played for that trophy since 1971. I gave this trivia out a few years ago, and you guys didn't know it then. But do you remember what the trophy is that these teams compete for? And it's about the head-to-head matchup. So if they play each other head-to-head, they have a chance of winning this trophy.
Amongst all of them, right?
Yeah.
I want to say the Beehive, but I think that's only between two
Very
schools.
close, Mike. It's the Beehive State.
Okay, Beyonce.
And they battle for the Beehive Boot.
That's
the Beehive Boot.
Yes.
And the Beehive Boot, if you didn't know, like so the state, Utah is the Beehive State. And then the boot, the trophy, symbolizes their Mormon origins because it's like an old like Mormon settler boot, right? So, there you go. The sad thing is, with all this conference scattering and whatnot, they awarded a Beehive Boot winner
Sorry, guys.
every year from 1971 right up until the last 7 years. In the last 7 years, they've only awarded the Beehive Boot 2 times out of the last 7 years.
Why?
Why?
It's a shame.
Yeah.
Because the teams didn't play each other. Because of all the weird
Oh, gotcha.
Good news is, in an optimistic note for the Beehive Boot, now that BYU and Utah are going to be reuniting in the Big 12, right? Holy War is going to getting on.
Holier than thou?
And that Holy War will also, to a large degree, determine the winner of the Beehive Boot. Very good.
All right, welcome back.
So they got that going for them.
Welcome back.
All right, so getting on to the actual matchup, right? We could sit here and we could talk about what we think about the UCLA offense versus the Utah defense and vice versa. But before we do that, we have a very, very special guest. She was gracious enough to come on. And Mike, bring her onto the show.
Joining us on the What's Bruin hotline is Michelle Bodkin. Michelle is a reporter and sports insider for KSL Sports in Salt Lake City. She's here to talk about UCLA traveling to Rice Eccles to try and make it 2 in a row against those darn Utes this weekend. Michelle, thanks for joining the show.
Hey, no problem, guys. Thanks so much for having me.
Really quickly, before we get into the questions, where can people find you? Where can people find your work?
Yeah, absolutely.
And social, sorry.
So if you go to kslsports.com and click on the Utah Utes tab, most of that stuff is going to be my byline. And then, of course, you can find me on social media platforms, X, Instagram, and Threads, and it's all at Bodkin KSL Sports.
Well, let's get into it, especially a question that I'm sure both Utah fans and UCLA fans are eager to find out, what's going on with Cam Rising. We know he has an injury. Have you heard anything? Is there any talk of him maybe playing?
Yeah, that is the $1 million question. Everybody wants to know. We've been trying to figure it out, going on. I mean, really, since the injury happened back in the Rose Bowl, and he said that he was going to be coming back. When exactly is this guy going to be back? And it's also interesting because I am in the process of that's what I'm writing right now is, will Cam Rising play against UCLA this weekend? I think anybody that's been following the narrative throughout this process, they've seen that, the hope was Florida, and it looked pretty good that he would perhaps start against Florida, and just wasn't quite ready. And then that narrative just kind of played out the last couple of weeks. And then obviously I don't think, Weber State's really necessarily a game that you want to throw a guy like that out in there's just no reason to do that really, other than I guess if you wanted to knock some rust off. So now the question becomes, does he start in Pac-12 play? And there's been some school of thought that feels like Cam might be ready to go for that. What I do know is Cam is very close, and I've kind of relayed this to people. It's like losing weight, right? Like the first couple of months go by so fast, and it's super easy, and you're trucking along. And then it's like those last 5 to 10 pounds that are so hard to get off. And that's kind of where Cam's at with the recovery. He just has 1 or 2 more things from what I've been told that he needs to check off the list. And it's just taken longer than I think people expected based off of how we trucked along through the rest of the rehab. So I think UCLA is a very realistic expectation. It could also potentially get pushed off to next week when Utah travels up to Corvallis to take on Oregon State.
Well, if he doesn't play, you have other quarterbacks, Nate Johnson and Bryson Barnes. What do you think of what they've done? And do you think they would be able to handle UCLA's defense, which we'll get into as well?
Yes. I think Bryson is a guy that he's been put into a lot of really bad situations for Utah, and all he does is put his head down and work, and he never complains. And he's just always looking to get better. Now, granted, he's kind of been replaced by Nate Johnson as the backup starter after 2 years kind of being the guy behind Cam Rising. Nate, is a young guy, an up-and-coming guy, a guy that's obviously still learning very much like UCLA's Dante Moore. Just hasn't had a whole ton of game reps under his belt, but you can just kind of tell by watching, I think both of those guys play actually, that they have the potential to be really quite good. And they I think they are good, in the here and now. But once they start going against, tougher opponents, better defenses, it might get a little bit hard for them, and they're going to make those rookie kind of mistakes, those freshman types of mistakes. So, I think I kind of, the little taste I've gotten of Nate Johnson reminds me a lot of a young Tyler Huntley. I think that's kind of who he reminds me of, at least from a Utah perspective. I think that's, potentially a good place or a good person for him to maybe want to try and grow into and emulate in his own way. But as far as, being able to get things done against UCLA, I would say if it was on the road and it was at the Rose Bowl, I think it would be a tougher task. But I think having that home crowd with them is probably very helpful. Again, they're going to have to play a good game, though, either or of them. And I do believe if Cam does not go, it is Nate Johnson again. I think that's who Utah's rolling with. They liked what he did last week. They liked what he did to end the Baylor game. So I think that's kind of the guy moving forward with, I think, the thought that, once Cam is finally done, that is the future. But it'll take a flawless effort from him. He'll have to play a good game. And then, of course, I think, Utah will have to rely a lot on their defense as well, to just kind of slow UCLA down a little bit and hopefully, give Utah's offense just enough opportunity to get the job done at home.
Well, Rising is the most notable player that has an injury, but the team also has other significant injuries. Who's out right now, and does it feel like they are close to full strength, or are they still a ways away?
Yeah, it's been an interesting start to the season. You don't usually hear about, a team being injury plagued to start the season. It's usually midway to the end of the season. But Utah's doing this in reverse this year. They've just had some really unfortunate, rotten luck. Just some weird things that have kind of popped up that have been less than ideal. But I think the hope is maybe it works in their favor towards the end of the season. Maybe they don't have those injuries at the end of the season like everybody else does. But for the here and now, Brant Keithy is another guy. I think is probably the second most notable guy that everybody's like, well, when's that guy going to be back? Because he also changes Utah's offense quite a bit. It sounds like he's a little further behind Cam. I don't expect to see him back as quickly as I do expect to see Cam. And then you just kind of look around at some other guys. There's been some defensive line players. Junior Tafuna's been in and out of the lineup a little bit with some nagging things. I think the hope is that things are trending in the right direction. We just got done talking with Kyle Whittingham, and he said that as of yesterday, things were kind of starting to maybe look like they were turning a corner, and some of the guys that they want back should hopefully be available, and hopefully they're getting to where they're getting guys back, not adding guys to the list.
How are you feeling about a matchup of top 10 defensive teams? We're a little bit more surprised that UCLA is a lot better than most people. But what do you think about this defensive battle?
I love it. I'm a defensive girl. I joke all the time that I worship it at the altar of Kyle Whittingham because here in Utah, here in Salt Lake, that's what we've grown up with is very defensive minded football. So I'm excited that this potentially could come down really more so to whose defense is better than necessarily the offense. And you're right. It is a little stunning, weird, unusual to think about like a UCLA team being a top defense, but that's just kind of where the Bruins are at the moment. And I think we started seeing that transition a little bit last year, to be honest. There were some very marked improvements in what I think UCLA was doing defensively last year than any year I could really previously remember. And obviously it bit Utah in the butt a little bit last year. I don't know that they were quite prepared to deal with that. And so I know that that's on Utah's mind, and I know that, they're wanting to kind of make up for that last year because Utah has kind of taken over the series a little bit, even though UCLA does have the overall record. But the last, what has it been, like five or six meetings have mostly been in Utah's favor, except for last year.
Yeah, it was like 5 out of 6 straight butt kickings before last year, or something like that.
Yeah. I mean, just absolutely crazy how that kind of flipped on its head. But I'm personally looking forward to maybe a little bit more of a defensive game as someone that loves watching good defense.
The Utes absolutely shut down Florida's rush attack in week 1, but the Gators have kind of reemerged since. Do you have any idea how Utah was so dominant in that game? Because UCLA has a pretty solid rush attack too. That's going to be interesting to see.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see. I think the big thing for this Utah defense is, especially early on last year, you think about the Florida game last year that they played in down at the Swamp. You think about the UCLA game last year at the Rose Bowl. And I think the real glaring issue with that team was actually, shockingly enough, Utah's defense, and especially that front seven. They just had times when they weren't as assignment sound as they probably should have been. Issues tackling early on, just kind of whiffing and missing on guys, which is so uncharacteristic for Utah football, especially in the Kyle Whittingham era. That just is basically unheard of. And, they returned a lot of those same guys. And I think they kind of remember that criticism and they've taken it to heart and they've put in a lot of work. And I think it showed against Florida. I think it showed I think it didn't show quite as well against Baylor, but I'm going to give them a pass with Baylor because that was just miserably hot. And I think people were tired. But then it showed up again against Weber State. And so I expect it to show up again this game. Is it going to be as dominant as Florida? We'll see. I think there's a good, strong possibility because as it turns out, it looks like maybe Florida is a pretty good rushing team this year. What they did against Tennessee this past weekend, super impressive, which makes what Utah did even more impressive. So it's going to, I'm really curious to see if this is really just going to be a theme for this Utah defense or, if maybe Florida isn't as good as we thought they were, and therefore Tennessee's not maybe as good as we kind of think they are. That's kind of the beauty of these earlier games is you just kind of don't necessarily know. This is where you're in the process of finding out who exactly are these teams and what do they bring to the table. This is just going to be another really good test, I think, for that Utah defense to see if they're for real.
Yeah, you just talked about taking things to heart. Last year, UCLA dominated, and we were as surprised as anybody else. Utah en route to a 42-32 win. DTR had 4 touchdowns. Charbonnet had 198. Is there any talk from the players about last year's game leading into this one? Is there any bulletin board material?
I don't know if there's like bulletin board material. I think it's just more remembering how they felt, right? Because last year was a really good season for Utah and actually for UCLA as well. But I think, anybody that's super, super competitive, those losses almost stick with you more than those glorious wins, And so I just think it's something that this team just hasn't forgotten. I think they feel bad that they didn't put their best effort out on the field. And I think they all know that they didn't put their best effort out on the field that day. They absolutely got outclassed by UCLA. And I don't think anyone would debate that. UCLA came to play. Utah did not that particular game. And then I think subsequently we saw them take it out on USC. The following week. So, but I think that's always on your mind as a competitor is, man, I did not show up. I did not play to the best of my capabilities that game. And I think that's really more than anything else, what's on their minds. And I would say as well, they take a lot of pride in their home win streak. We are up to 16 straight home games without a loss.
Yeah.
And so I think, there's also that in the back of their mind a little bit as well as, we don't want to screw up the home win streak. And so I think you're going to see a much better effort from Utah this year.
Yeah. So you've watched Utah. When they have the ball, what are they going to do? UCLA is great up front, but the secondary, especially the cornerbacks, are a little suspect. Who in the passing game is going to be a threat to the Bruins?
Yeah. So, that's kind of been an interesting evolution for Utah football this year. Obviously, they don't have quite the tight ends that they've had in the past. Dalton Kincaid is off to the NFL. Brett Keithy hasn't made it back onto the field yet. So, we're breaking in some new faces there with Thomas Yasmin, who people were, I think, greatly introduced to probably in that championship game against USC last year.
Great game.
Yeah. Well, I figured you guys would say that.
It was beautiful.
But he's still, I think, kind of trying to find his way into the game. But I think he's someone that has the potential to break out at any moment. There's a player by the name of Nicky Sukataraga that was actually a defensive end last year, and he just barely converted over to tight end. He's had a couple of nice catches so far this season. And then you look over to the wide receiver room, which Utah's never really been known for wide receivers, but it looks like that might be the area that they kind of go and open up the pass game with, no longer having quite the tight end tandem that they've had in years past. And so you're looking at guys like freshman Mikey Matthews. They brought in Micah Pittman. from Florida State and Oregon, yes. And he's come in and he's done some nice things. And then, of course, you have a guy like Devon Bailey that's been in the mix, for years now. And then you look at someone like Money Parks that I think the Pac-12's gotten a little bit of a taste of over the last 2 seasons. He really seems to be coming into his own and gaining some confidence out on the field. But the big thing is, Utah's been a little still cautious and careful with it. And I think that's primarily been because they've been trying to figure out, who quarterback 2 is going to be and essentially who the starter is going to be if it's not Cam Rising. And, you go with a guy like Nate Johnson that doesn't have a whole lot of tape. You don't want to drown him with too many options. And so they kind of kept it smaller scale for him. I expect it to continue to kind of open up as he gets more comfortable. Whittingham has said more or less the same thing this past week. And then, of course, if it's Cam, then I expect, a very, very different look down the field, and those guys being used quite a bit more than probably if it's Nate Johnson.
Okay, I got 2 more for you. First off, you mentioned that Utah has not lost at Rice-Eccles since 2020, and they're on a 28-2 in home games since 2018. What makes that place so special, other than the fact that Utes have been pretty darn good over that span?
I think it's community buy-in, to be honest. Salt Lake's a very interesting place in that it's kind of a big city, but it's also kind of has some small town vibes too. And so you don't have an NFL team here. You don't have professional baseball. We do have a professional soccer team. We do have the Utah Jazz, and we do have a professional rugby team here, actually. But none of those things draw quite the way that football does. And I think Utah Athletics has done a really good job, not just with football, but with a lot of their sports, of just making it the biggest show in town. And so people want to be a part of that. And it makes them invested, makes them show up on game day, makes them loud, makes them proud. And I think there is kind of a sense here that the Utes is this community's team. And people just take a lot of pride in it. And as much as, the team gets credited for having that track record, I think the people here also take a lot of pride in that. And so they don't want to see that go away either. So they show up and they show out week in and week out. And I think that makes it incredibly special, and kind of is why the vibes here are so strong.
Lastly, the Pac-12 has been an amazing conference this year. It's actually been a really good conference, but the saying is the conference eats itself. You have 8 ranked teams. How do you see the conference working out? And do any of these teams make the playoffs, in your opinion? Of the last year of the Pac-12, with that added in.
I know. It's so ironic. It's so crazy. I think there's a couple of teams that, have some real potential to make the playoff this year and really make some noise. I personally really like Washington. I think their offense is really good. And I think they have a good enough defense to get it done. Obviously, still need to see a little bit more from them and really from everyone. But I think they're a team that is perhaps built to be able to do something like that. Oregon, I think, is another team that has some potential there. I think USC, maybe. I have more questions about their defense than I do the other two. But if they can kind of put it all together, we all know and can see what Caleb Williams and that offense can do. Mm-hmm. And I mean, they're a tough team to stop. And then, of course, you look at a team like Utah. I think Utah has probably, to be honest, the best potential to be the most well-balanced out of anybody. But, they're having some health issues. Do those ever get resolved? Because while it's super impressive what they've done against teams like Baylor, teams like Florida early on in the season with a bunch of backups, and it really does showcase the depth, I don't think that's a model that they can ride on through the entire season. So, if they're having to ride Nate Johnson through most of the season. I think they'll win. I think they'll win games, and I think they'll be competitive. But I don't know that they're necessarily playoff caliber, 3P caliber at that point.
Yeah.
And then, of course, you know, we have an interesting team like Oregon State. I'm not sure if they're playoff worthy, but I definitely wouldn't bet against them to maybe make the conference championship game. I think they have some firepower there, both on the roster and just hurt feelings off of, you know, what's transpired, and who can really blame them or Washington State really for feeling like everybody else just kind of abandoned them. So I think there's some interesting things going on in the conference this year. I'm really excited to see how it plays off. And I agree with you. To be honest, I think the Pac-12 has been a way better conference than people have given it credit for. But I think it's because we evaluate what makes a good conference completely wrong. If you have one or two top tier teams and then everybody else is absolute trash and garbage and there's no parity in the conference, then is it really a good conference? I would argue it's not.
Yeah, ACC, take that.
Well, we've been talking with Michelle Bodkin of KSL Sports in Salt Lake City. Thank you so much. Hopefully we can keep tabs on the Utes through you as y'all head off to Big 12 country. It's kind of like everyone's, you know, leaving camp at the end of the summer, and it's like, oh, keep in touch. Yay.
KIT.
We'll see you. KIT,
See you
right?
next summer.
Anyway, thank you for joining the show.
No problem, guys. Thank you so much for having me.
Once again, that was awesome for Michelle to join us. Michelle Bodkin from KSL Sports in Utah. It's like the NBC affiliate, actually, and she does a lot of online stuff as well. But we really appreciate her coming on the show. Mike and I connected with her at Pac-12 Media Day, so that's very fun to be able to catch up with her again. Now, Bill, getting back to your question and my statement about whether or not Rising's going to play, I kind of get the vibes from Utah that he's not going to play, but obviously that's just vibes. You know, I don't really know for sure. I feel like Keithy's not going to play either, but that's just the vibes. I don't know for sure. But how are you guys feeling about this game?
No.
The Bruins going to Rice-Eccles. Obviously, not a lot of teams win there very much.
No. But here's the thing. For me, it is. I know I'm usually the pessimist here, but I sort of like UCLA's odds, whether or not Cam Rising plays either way. Does that make sense? Meaning, if he does play, I believe he'll be rusty, and I still think there's a chance to get after him. If he doesn't play, the other quarterback isn't as good as Cam Rising, so I think we can get after him. UCLA can get after him as well.
I like UCLA to win the game.
I can't believe I'm hearing Bill Shirley say this.
I know, but
it's
it just
is amazing.
But if you just take a step back and go. The offense hasn't been as good with this other quarterback, and even if they try to, you know, they being Utah tries to surprise UCLA with, we have Kiwi and him. Yeah, but they've been out. So, you know, there's a good chance they might miss a throw, miss a catch, right? And just sort of, you know, do you get what I'm saying?
I absolutely think I totally get what you're saying, and it's one of these things where it's like, I'm buying what you're saying, Bill. To be honest with you, I have a hard time picking for the Bruins in this game if the Utes are fully operational or close to fully operational, just because almost nobody ever wins there. However,
but they're not fully operational.
They doesn't look like they are, and I don't think they will be.
No.
And so I think that bodes well for the Bruins.
And this is another thing, Jake. You know, it's something about Utah. It happened last year, and it happened even the year before. If you can get Utah early in the year, that's where their losses come. Early in the season. This is early in the season, so you might be able to steal one now because this thing goes on and they get more. They just get seasoned. They get stronger and stronger.
They're like that guy in Marvel who, like, Juggernaut. He starts running, and once he gets momentum, he's unstoppable. Right now, you're early.
You're early. Like, you can trip them up still. so hopefully UCLA can trip them up, because if they played them at the end of the year,
we did.
Yeah.
I feel like this too in that I think that, you know, Bill, I think we were talking about this off air, but you figure with Dante Moore being there as the starting quarterback for the Bruins, freshman, we're kind of waiting for the freshman mistakes. And does it make sense that the freshman mistakes might come when he's on the road in Utah?
Yes.
When he's on the road at Oregon State, these big road games? Yeah, it does. But with that being said, right, probably Morgan Scaly, the Utah defensive coordinator, is going to get after his ass. Is probably going to see a lot of pressure trying to be sent by Utah. And they're a team that, we talked about how healthy it is for a team that can blitz but doesn't have to blitz, right? And Utah falls in that category. They're a good defensive team. We're all wondering if the Bruins are smoke and mirrors right now. Utah's probably not smoking mirrors.
No.
They're just good on defense.
Yes.
And they're a legit top 10 defense already, and they played 2 Power 5 opponents, right? So Moore's probably going to have to keep his head on a swivel. Moore's probably going to have to deal with some adversity. But with that being said, I still like the Bruins' chances because of how poised he's been so far. And he's gotten hit a couple times. He's made some plays where he's gotten roughed around. He's did a cartwheel on the field, for goodness sakes. And got up and made a big play right afterwards. And I just really think it's important that if Moore can maintain this demeanor that he's had, and even when the chips are down a little bit, just kind of still maintain that calm and poise that we've seen so far this season, right? I think the Bruins have a very good chance to go into Rice-Eccles and steal this game or outright win this game, depending on what Utah's circumstances. But I think the theme of this game, more than anything else for these Bruins, going in there with these gaudy stats and these dudes that are playing very well, but the theme of the game should be to just, let it all hang out.
Let it all hang out.
Nice.
Wow, Jake.
We had this ready.
You like that production?
Yeah, I hope you just don't get censored on YouTube.
I know YouTube might that may have a problem with that. I think it's short enough to make it, but I want to let it all hang out.
Let it all hang out.
And what I mean by that is, I think UCLA has an advantage when you talk about guys like J. Michael Sturdivant, right? Kyle Ford. You talk about like UCLA or USC got beat famously last year by the Utes. Got just
trashed,
beat up. But
Dominated.
part of that getting beat up was the fact that they hurt Caleb
Curb
Williams
stomped.
and he went out, right? They physically
Destroyed.
dominated them. But when you've seen USC
Annihilated.
beat the Utes, and by the way, the last time the Utes...
Discombobulated.
Thank you, Micah. We want to enjoy that. Let's all remember how happy we were when the Utes
That was a great day.
kicked the shit out of SC twice in a row at the end of last year. That was good. That was satisfying. But, I do, guys, want you to remember to 2020 when the Utes last lost at Rice-Eccles. And that was to a USC team that went in there, and I know it was a weird COVID year and weird shit was happening, but still, they go into Rice-Eccles, and the reason they won that game is because they had the bigger, stronger, faster athletes on the outside, and they were able to just kind of stiff arm the Utes to a victory on that field. And for the first time in a long time, I think the Bruins are kind of equipped to do that every bit as much as they are equipped to get into a street fight with the Utes. Like, do we doubt? I know the jury's still a little bit out on the Bruins because of the competition they faced, but going back to last year, how they played the Utah, this year, how they've looked so far, I wouldn't be surprised if the Bruins are able to rush the ball against the Utes, at a reasonable pace. Mm-hmm. It won't be 9 yards per carry that they've been averaging or whatever, but I think they'll be able to run the ball on the Utes. But I also think that the Bruins have an edge on the advantage as well, an edge on the outside as well, and if you add that dimension to this, and Moore's able to get a couple big plays down the field, whether it's on the outside or just over the middle like they were doing last year, that is some place where the Bruins can make some hay. But they can't grip up. They can't get nervous. They can't get upset over a mistake that they make, right? They got to let it all hang out.
Let it all hang out.
And just go into Utah. There's really no pressure because they're supposed to lose this game.
Yeah.
Would you be surprised if they lose this game, Bill?
No.
Would you be surprised if they lose this game, Mike?
No.
I sure as hell won't be surprised if they lose this game. But the Bruins... they don't care about being surprised. They just want to go there and win. And what do they got to do, Bill?
Let it all hang out.
That's what I'm talking about.
Let it all hang out.
Let's go, right?
I like it.
Mike, how do you feel about the game?
I no matter who is in there, like I am with Bill. Even if Cam Rising is starting this game, participating in some way, I think there is going to be some rust. And if you don't have a 100% Cam Rising, that's a weakness for Utah.
Operational.
Yeah, not fully. I mean, the Bruins can find that open duct in that trench and just totally take down the Utah Death Star. Especially if
do you think someone could get trench foot by having a beer spilled on them at a Dodger game?
What?
Never mind. The story for later.
Okay. Anyway, all right, weird. But no, I mean, Cam Rising is a huge part of it. But when he's 100% fully operational, that is what makes Utah super dangerous. You know, they're
Absolutely.
good. They've showed that they can hang with like Baylor. Not a horrible team, not great, but they were able to hang with them and get that win. Weber State, they handled them as they should have. But this is when things start to count. Utah knows, just like UCLA knows, that if they lose this game 0-1, even 0-1 starting conference season, that's a huge setback. They want to do everything they can to try to get that win with or without Cam Rising, but he is a huge part of it. And I think because of that, because I don't think I don't have much to go off of, but it just doesn't seem like he's going to be 100%, if at all, starting, which is going to give UCLA a huge advantage.
And I don't want to say that Nate Johnson doesn't have a chance to be a good quarterback in this game, because, I don't know, I remember games when Utah had a guy that came out of retirement for a day. Like, he had been retired from college football. He came back and he ran for
running back, yeah.
250 yards on the Bruins. I think I'm inflating his stats, but that's what it felt like, 250 yards, right? It felt like Josh Kelly running against USC.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we've had these moments from the Utes that are just terrifying and horrible, right? And we've suffered through the BBS of 49-0 losses at Rice Eccles. We've suffered through getting our asses kicked at the Rose Bowl. I mean, there's been some horrible moments against the Utes. But with that being said, Nate Johnson could be good, but he's been okay so far this year. He threw a couple touchdowns late against Baylor to win him that game, to his credit, and he played pretty good against Baylor. But he's not Cam Rising, and I think we do need to remember that. And I do think there's a distinct advantage there for the Bruins if Rising doesn't play, right? And if Rising does play, you can make the argument that maybe he's got some rest. I will say the Utah broadcasts have been talking about how, Nate Johnson, they're like, oh, he's played admirably, but the things he has problems with are like the timing routes, right? Being on the same page with his receivers. And that's something, too, when you think about how people have taken advantage of the Bruins, it hasn't necessarily been. By the way, there have been guys running downfield open against the Bruin defense this year. A couple drop passes, absolutely.
Yeah.
But when you think about how Fresno State smoked us last year or a couple years ago, the problems the Bruins have had with the Bruins secondary, it's been a lot more of the quick sort of things where guys have just gotten open, they've lived too much of a cushion or whatever. And if Johnson isn't necessarily in sync with all that stuff, I think that plays into the Bruins' hands as well too. So I mean, there are things. I don't think any of us ever truly feel confident with the Bruins going into Rice Eccles on any particular game.
No.
However, this year, I do think there are things to be optimistic about. And the fact that they're going in there, starts at 6, goes down to 4.5, this is a game that the Bruins can win. And if they do win this game, what a freaking feather in their cap it is, right?
Yeah.
Now, if they lose the game, guys, the Washington State is a must-win game. Is it not?
Depends on how they lose this game.
It does depend.
And yes, it does. Yeah, that Washington State.
Look, if they get in there and they get beat 49-0, we're all just. I mean,
we're screwed.
Forget about it.
Shut it down.
Right?
Shut it
it's
down.
done. It's smoke and mirrors, right?
Okay,
Bill?
let's get Dante Moore ready for year 2.
Yeah, it's total smoke and mirrors, but I don't think that's going to happen.
But I mean, that would probably be the least likely outcome for me, right?
Yeah,
like
exactly.
them getting just smoked, right? I don't think that's going to happen.
Just as similar to UCLA is going to go in there and beat
smoke them.
Yeah, exactly, exactly.
We'd be surprised. By
this should be a very close game, no matter how it turns out.
But so I mean, if they do come up short in this game, though, the Washington State becomes a must-win game.
Yeah.
And then the Oregon State becomes hey, let's try to win that one if we already lost the Utah one, right? But if they can somehow manage to win this game, then it's like credit in the bank, right? Because nobody's expecting anybody in the Pac-12, I think, to make it through unscathed. But the longer you can be undefeated in all these matchups with top 25 teams, I think the better off you're going to be.
Yeah.
Now, right now, they're looking at 3 top 25 teams in a row. We'll just kind of do our little Pac-12 talk right here before we get to our predictions. But they're not going to play 3 top 25 teams in a row in all likelihood, because probably whoever wins the Oregon State-Washington State matchup will be in the top 25 and the other one won't. And then by the time the Bruins play Wazoo, Oregon State, probably one of them will be out of the top 25. FYI.
Yeah.
Probably Oregon State's going to win that game. So that's kind of how I'm playing it. But with that being said, prediction time.
Mm-hmm.
Bill, I love how you put your mic down.
Yes.
And then pick it back up when you're going to talk.
You like that?
It's it's as if we don't have a microphone stand.
I know.
It's amazing.
They
have these inventions.
I don't want to.
You just put the thing in the stand.
I don't want to put it
and
there.
The mic's there for you.
I know. It's just too far away.
What is your prediction?
30-24 UCLA.
30-24 UCLA? Bill, predicting a win at Rice Eccles on my birthday? Bill, you do care. You are my friend.
You know who doesn't care?
You are great. Matt Mardigan. Oh, my God.
Wow.
Bill, I love it.
Wow, you went back to Willow times. Damn.
That's right, bro.
No, Jamaal,
I love that movie.
He's not feeling well this week, so he's not going to be able to join us, but he did send in his prediction.
Jamaal, we love you.
And it's
Miss you, bro.
He's going with his preseason prediction of Utah beating UCLA 35-31. Personally, no matter if Rising is there or not, I think UCLA has a lot of bravado going into this game, and they're going to win 38-30. Jake,
Mike,
you have two different
38-30?
Yeah, 38-30.
Mike,
it's gonna be some weirdness.
Mike. Okay, yeah.
This is gonna be Pac-12 before dark.
Once again, my prescription for the Bruins is what, guys?
Let it all hang out.
To let it all hang out. Utah has played without 16 different dudes over the course of their non-con.
Yeah.
Right? We heard Michelle Bodkin talk about that. Stevenson Sylvester, he's one of the broadcast guys. I think he's a sideline guy for Utes. Says that Nate has trouble throwing that's the quarterback for them, has trouble throwing the anticipatory throws. I don't know if he's going to play or not. I don't know if it's Cam Rising. But if Cam Rising is playing, he's going to have rust, right? We got to let it all hang out.
I dig it.
I think if the Utes play Rising, I'm going to have a hard time picking for the Bruins. And I'll give a conditional if Rising plays, the Utes win a close one, 23-21. But if he don't play, I think the Bruins are going to win. And I think they're going to win in dominating fashion, 26-16, in a hard-fought defensive struggle where the Bruins kick some field goals but make more big plays. And
let it all hang out.
26-16 Bruins. That's the prediction. That's the one I'm going to stick with, Mikey.
Okay, cool.
26-16.
I like it.
God, I hope so. All right. Well, here we go. Bill, do you have anything else to say?
No, man. I'm good.
Me and Mike are going to do some listener feedback, and then we'll come back for What's Bruin. But let's get to that listener feedback right now. All right, so we got a couple calls that came in a little bit late for the post-game show. 805-399-4WBS, Second Reign of Troy. Although I hope to see you guys this week. I think the first call tonight was Mike from Santa Clarita. So here's what he had to say.
Hey, what's Bruin Show? It's Mike from Santa Clarita. Just calling in to relish in yesterday's great game. I think I shared on the Slack channel, but it was a really cool game because I got to take my son to his first UCLA football game. So that was a real special moment, and just seeing the absolute beatdown
Go Bruins
on North Carolina Central was just a lot of fun. But looking ahead, the Pac-12 is pretty exciting. I guess my question is not so much about Utah next week, but if we had to enter into the last game or last couple weeks of the season, what would be the most interesting rivalry game right now? So interested in know your guys' answer. Talk amongst yourselves and go Bruins.
Hey, Mike. No, I'm glad you got to take the kid to the game. That's always fun. As far as the rivalry games go, are you talking about like what's the best, the Civil War or the Crosstown Showdown or Washington State? I think that's what you're getting at, right? I don't know. I mean, I think to me, the one that's shaping up to look the most exciting just from our Bruin tinged glasses has got to be the Crosstown Showdown because, we're all picking the Bruins to win against Utah and to be, or I don't know, personally speaking, like my bold prediction for the season was the Bruins and the Trojans are going to play twice this year, meaning they're going to play their Crosstown Showdown and they're going to do Crosstown Showdown Part 2 in Las Vegas. So I guess I'm biased in that regard. But I think that if we throw that one out, it's got to be the Civil War, right? Because there's so much baggage from last year when Oregon State ran the ball the entire second half or whatever and just absolutely, demoralized the Ducks because they're so wimpy, aren't they?
The Ducks? They're wimpy. They don't even have teeth.
So, the Beavers just really took it to them.
Nice beaver.
And I think that's the one I'd be most interested to see as far as the rivalry games go, going down the final stretch of the Pac-12 season. And it very well could determine who is one of the representatives in the Pac-12 title game in Las Vegas. So that would probably be my 1B to the Crosstown Showdown 1A. But thanks for calling, and let's get to the next one.
Hey guys, like the show. Sounds a little bit like you guys are sitting around in a dorm room. Good vibe. So keep it up. The camaraderie is very noticeable and makes you guys different. So that's great. On the games that were, I'll go back, kind of all three of them showed me that the defensive line has really improved, and mainly what's not being talked about is Jay Toia and Smith are in the middle. Toia especially is really, really faster now. It's amazing how much different he looks from in person at San Diego State, and he's staying lower. When he first showed up a couple of years ago, he used to stand up. He was just moved around like a sumo wrestler. Now he's driving through. He reminds me of Brian Price, who had that really quick first step and could get around into the backfield. I think with him coming up the middle, it makes the edge guys who look pretty fast, makes them more effective. The problem we have, as we know, is Kirkwood. He just can't play. I mean, he might be a great athlete. He's just not a corner, and that's disappointing, but I'm glad to see they're going to Davies. We've got to do something because he's like an automatic first down. Between he and Humphrey, they're as bad a pair of corners as we've had since Price and Hester, the notorious Hester duo. We call these guys the Humpwoods because they're so bad. But Humphrey maybe could be rehabilitated. Kirkwood is the easy out for the offense, unfortunately. On our offense, everything looks about like we expected. I think the left side of the line is going to be the problem. The right side looks like it's doing really well with a couple of homegrown guys, Carlin and DiGiorgio. But the left side, the two imports, they're not really holding down the left side as well. We'll see what they do against Utah. Against Utah, I can see the Bruins winning this game. It's going to be interesting to see how Dante handles the pressure. It's going to be a big, packed stadium. Does he really have that cool composure that we've seen so far in the three easy games we've had? It's going to be a tough game in a foreign land, and can he hang in there? So he's a beautiful passer, a really fast motion, quick, almost flip-like release. And I think he's going to do fine. I just hope he can handle it. It's not too big for him. And the rest of the offense will just, I think, cook along. If we can't run, Chip's pretty good at figuring out ways to loosen up the defensive line so we can run later in the game. I think the Bruins go on to win this, maybe by 10 points. We'll see. I'll go 38-28, something in that league. And if we get that win, I'd say we start nudging up towards the top 10. So keep up the good work.
Oh, thanks for a great call. And you forgot to leave your name, and you trailed off there right at the end. I think the 3-minute mark cut you off right there, but you got to the end of your call. So you have a great sense of timing, whoever you happen to be. But a fantastic call, and I'll just hit a couple of the points that you made. I think that the interior of the line has definitely been undersold so far, but I agree with you. Jay Toia looks like he's awesome and been playing very, very well, and along with the other dudes, Smith and the other guys. I love a good Shelley Price reference. He had the longest arms in the West, no matter how deficient he may or may not have been as a cornerback. But I mean, that is the biggest question about this defense so far, right? Because I feel like they're going to be able to get a ton of pressure on whoever they're playing, and I think that Latu, he kind of took the game off last game. He got the interception, and that was really the only impact he had. But all season long, he's going to be looking to get pressures and sacks, and I think that it's going to be a good Pac-12 season for him. So the Bruins are going to be able to manufacture a lot of pressure, I think a lot more reliably than they have, in years past. So that's a big plus. But will they be able to hold it down even for a little bit outside and in the back end? And that's really what the question is. And you just got to hope that they figure out something with the defensive backs to keep the defense good enough as they go through this Pac-12 schedule. As far as the O-line goes, I think you hit it right on the head once again. I am curious to see what it's going to be like when they just start playing 5 guys as opposed to mixing and matching like they have through the whole first 3 games of the season, and how good they can play as a unit going from there. But in the first game, there was a lot of pressures. I think I charted it, I think after the game or whatever, and there were like 3 different guys that gave up pressures on different situations. Some of it was the running backs, some of it was the quarterbacks themselves, like running into problems. But yeah, certainly there's room for improvement, but I still feel like they have a pretty good start, so we'll see how that goes. And then last but not least, I couldn't agree with you more about Moore, right? He is going to have some moments where he's not at his best probably, and it really is all about how he responds and how he plays from there. And once again, the motto for this game, let it all hang out, right? And I think if they go in there with that attitude, I'm with you. The Bruins win, and they win by a pretty comfortable margin, like around 10 points. I think that's what I predicted a few minutes ago. You had them scoring a few more points, but I'm with you, man. Let's go. So thanks for calling once again. And next time you call, leave your darn name, right? So we can say hi. But thank you very much. Oh, and getting back to your comment about our camaraderie and how we kind of sound like we're at the dorm room or in the frat or whatever. Well, I mean, that goes from knowing each other for, I don't know, since 1998 or whatever. So that's we enjoy each other. We enjoy doing the show, and we thank you for recognizing that. So thank you. Nancy also chimed in on the Slack channel, so let me get to that real quick. She just wanted to know what the keys to the victory were for this game. And we already talked about it a little bit, but I'll reiterate them, of course, because it's her birthday this weekend, and it's my birthday this weekend, and we want a Bruin victory for our birthdays. So let's get it going. Nancy, we talked about it already, but the keys to victory for me for the Bruins against Utah, number one, they can't get bullied or intimidated by the nature in and of itself of Rice-Eccles Stadium. The Utes haven't lost since 2020 and all that stuff. So if they go in there with a freshman quarterback and start getting intimidated, that could be a problem, right? But I feel like that's not going to happen, so I think that they'll be able to give the Utah a game on their own terms, and I'm looking forward to that. They got to be able to run the ball, of course, because that's going to open up the other things that they want to do. They were able to run the ball very effectively on the Utes last year. Sharp's got the 200 yards, and he was like at 9 yards per carry. Is it going to be that freaking gaudy? I highly doubt it. But, if they're still able to rush for a good chunk of yardage and a good percentage, somewhere upwards of, 5 yards per carry or something, that's probably what you're looking for. And then they have to be able to protect more. He's going to get hit, but he can't get hit so much like the Bruins did to Coastal Carolina, and that quarterback, like by the end of the first quarter, he's freaking covered in grass stains, his thumb's bloody and all that stuff. The Bruins can't let that happen to Moore, especially early on. It could become a real ugly game if that's how it's going. So the way, if the Bruins can protect Moore to a degree and he's able to, kick a couple of big plays off, hit Sturdivant, hit Ford, hit the guys at the middle, Loya's always running around out there, and the Bruins are able to kind of like keep the chains moving with the two running backs. I think on offense that is a big key to success. On defense, you have a lot of unknown because you don't know who's playing quarterback. Rising, if he shows up, he's going to be rusty. You want to hit him. You want to hit him hard. You want to hit him a bunch. If it's not him and it's Nate back there, or even Bryson Barnes, which it won't be. It'll be Nate Johnson because he's the guy that started the last game and finished the win against Baylor. Guess what? You want to hit him. You want to hit him a bunch, and you want to hit him hard and try to really make him feel it. Kind of the model would be like that Coastal game, right? The Utes are going to be a much better offensive team than San Diego State was, and certainly much better than NCCU was. So can they adjust? The last key to the game is, can they adjust the Bruins to the rise in competition? Because that's really what this game is going to be about, right? It's a much better team with much better athletes than they've played so far this season. And if they can, take those punches, deal with the road environment, and maintain their cool, and, once again, I'll go back to the well one more time.
Let it all hang out.
I think the Bruins got a shot. And we have a chance to be happy on our birthdays. I know you're celebrating it on Saturday. My actual one is on Saturday. So let's let it all hang out and have a good time. All right, Nancy? Bill, it's your favorite part of the show. What time is it?
What's brewing with you?
What's brewing with you? You ask me. What's brewing with me? Yeah. What's brewing with you? What's brewing with me? What's brewing with
Maggie, what's with you?
I had, just because it was, I had to cover the game this weekend, and it actually lined up pretty well. UCLA defeated North Carolina Central. The game ended about 5:30. My girls had a birthday party out in Altadena, which was like 10 minutes away, and that ended at like 7:30, 8 o'clock. So it was
Nice.
like I just took my time getting out of the game. Did what I need to do post game. Did my 2-minute drill.
The game that was.
Just the game that was, and just slowly strolled over to pick them up to this lovely Filipino family who I've never met before. My kids know their family, and it was interesting because I was going there just to like pick them up. I was like, oh, hey, nice to meet you all. And just like any Mexican family, I was like, oh, come in. I was like, oh, are you hungry? Do you need anything? I was like, actually, no, I'm okay. And they're like, oh, really? Because we have all this. I'm like, okay, I guess I'll eat a little bit. They had like these Filipino version of egg rolls, but yet they're like 5 times bigger, and they just had this amazing Filipino feast, and so I had to engage in that. But and then Sunday it was just chilled out day with the kiddos, just trying to get them caught up on school and all that. But I this week especially I wanted them to be caught up because this Friday, taking them to go see a show that a band they've been wanting to see forever. I've gotten them into a lot of bands, but Ladytron is a band that they have really gotten into, especially my oldest.
Very cool.
And we're gonna go see them at the Belasco. When I told them about,
I love the Belasco.
I still haven't
nice
been
time.
there. I heard it's amazing. I heard it's a sweet spot. So it's an all ages show, and when I told my kids about it, like Violet especially, like her mouth dropped like 5 minutes straight. I was like, so you're kind of like that? So she was like, I cannot wait. So that's going to be an interesting What's Brewing for next week. But that's something I'm really looking forward to. Bill, what's brewing with you?
Guys, frustrating thing about construction at the house, doing an ADU
for Jane,
for the mother-in-law, is that while doing this, the contractor notices other things, and things that I knew that I just tried to put my head in the sand about. Was one of the biggest ones was being a roof. When I first bought the home in 2007, the guy, the appraiser, well, not the appraiser, what's the guy who comes out?
Inspector,
thank you. Comes out, he said, hey, this roof's been on there for close to 20 years already. This was in 2007. I think you should think about that in the future. I'm like, okay, hey, it's 2023.
It's the future.
It's been a while.
It's been a while.
Welcome to your future, Bill.
Yeah, so it's one of those things where the contractor's giving a good price, but guys, I don't know how it is for you, but for me, it's very frustrating to put a large sum of money into something as like dull as pipes and or roofing when you know it's a necessary evil, but it's still very frustrating that I'm going to be in debt for the next couple years because of this. So
welcome to California.
Yeah, it's very frustrating, but I know it has to get done. Like
Goddamn
I said,
Gavin Newsom.
Damn that guy. He caused this somehow, some way. I know he did.
This is your fault.
This is his fault.
Bill's roof.
I'm telling you. But either way,
we had a hurricane. Damn you, Newsom.
So it's just one of those things, right? It's just frustrating. It has to happen. I'm lucky I got away with it for so long, but damn it, I'm in debt again. So there you go.
I'm sorry, Bill.
It's all good. It's all. Jake, what's brewing with you?
2 things. Number one, I went to the Dodger game last night. A lot of fun. It's the first time I've had 3 home runs hit over my head. It's kind of neat watching the ball travel over your head. My buddy has seats right next to the Dodger bullpen, and all 3 Dodger home runs were right over the bullpen, which is pretty fun. The Dodgers are not giving away. They're now selling beers in a collectible receptacle that's shaped sort of like a bat.
They're doing that now? Oh!
Yes. So,
I gotta go.
So the bat has a bat handle on the bottom, and then it tapers out into a champagne flute sort of cup. But it's like a Yard House when you get the yard of beer. It's like that big, right? But there's nothing, like if you set it down on the ground, it just falls over. There's like a rounded bottom to it. Like there's no way to set it down, right? So at the game last night, we were taken by one of my good buddies. He has season tickets, and he got 6 tickets for us to go. And the guys got beers. Every time they went back to the snack bar, they came back with like 4 beers each or whatever. So they're a couple of them were getting pretty drunk. But the one guy sets down his little beer thing, and sets it down, doesn't tell nobody, and then another guy turns around and knocks the thing right over. And as soon as we got there, basically, the guy who hosted us ended up with a giant beer full of sneakers, or sneakers full of beer.
Oh, no.
That's what I was asking. So we were calling him like Swamp Foot for the rest of the night. But the Dodger collectible beer bat cups are really cool. But number one, you can't set them down. And number two, I can't imagine at some point we're not going to have a giant fight involving people using these things as swords. So I don't know about the...
Oh, dude, they did that with the Phillies at the beginning of the season.
Oh, God.
And they had to ban it after
remember
a week.
They banned Bat Night at Dodger Stadium a while back.
And then they brought it back because it was like, okay, you're behaving. Yeah, no, it was a total bonk situation.
The other real quick thing I'll have for What's Bruin is I was driving to work today, and I'm driving down a major thoroughfare, kind of by Bill's house actually, and the Homan encampment came off of the curb and actually went into the center lane of a 4-lane road.
What?
I don't understand how it happened, but I'm driving down, and not only do I have tents and shopping carts and trash and litter and debris on the curb and on the sidewalk, but also in the turning lane. So if I wanted to turn into IHOP or whatever, is over there by that Seas Candy and the the entire, it was like you're barricaded by homeless trash. And I'm like, what the F are we doing?
Yeah.
The other thing is, I'm driving to work. Very pleasant drive to work every day,
this
guys.
This is why I can't.
It's wonderful.
Stand this way.
There was a guy driving down. What are the rentable scooters? Like
electric scooters?
I don't know, birds.
You know, the electric, the
called.
bird scooter. Okay,
Yeah.
I'm not talking about a scooter that you properly sit on, right? There was a guy driving down the road on a bird scooter that he had modified to give himself a little seat to sit on. I don't know how he did it, but it was a bird scooter. He's riding down a city street, a very busy street, okay, like a 5-lane street in the valley.
Let me guess, without a helmet?
No helmet, and he's riding through traffic. And I'm like, this is like the 4th time I've seen something like this in the last 2 months. I'm like, what are we fucking doing, people?
Yeah.
Like, you're going to die.
Yeah.
So I don't recommend it.
Yeah.
But if that's what you do, then I guess that's what you do.
That's what you do.
Do what you do if that's what you do.
Yeah.
Okay?
Death be damned.
That last third thing.
Oh, dear.
I heard a story that they're going to bring back, or they're going to start operating speed cameras throughout Southern California.
Why?
And Northern California, and California, because Governor Newsom is a son of a bitch, and these are the type of programs he wants to install.
Of course he does.
He wants to do that. All I want to say is, double middle fingers to you, because how are you going to enforce it when you don't let us enforce, I don't know, license plate laws or anything? So all you got to do to get out of your speed ticket, just take a license plate off your car, because nobody's going to give a crap. You know what? Tint your windows black all the way around, because nobody gives a crap, because we can't enforce anything anymore.
Very true.
So great job.
Yes.
The only people who are going to get penalized by this rule are the actual rule followers.
Yeah.
Mother F the government.
Utah is looking really good at this point.
Oh, it's crazy good, man. Never looked so good. Where's my government totally sucks?
The government totally sucks, you motherfucker. The government.
I haven't got Mike agreeing with this, Bill.
Well, he
Before
knows.
you got here, he was
Mike doesn't like speed cameras.
Before you got here,
Oh,
he was
God, no.
complaining about taxes.
Yeah,
We're finally settling on
Yeah!
Mike. Yeah, Mike.
Oh, I don't
Yeah!
like
Tax metal.
suck. I don't want to get into it, but yeah.
Tax sucks.
All right.
All right, guys.
Anyways, Bill.
Let me just say this.
Yeah.
I've been moody about the government lately. So.
Yeah, Mike. Let's go. All right. Anyways, the Bruins were unanimous.
Yeah.
Bruins are going to win in
That's
Utah
scary.
on my birthday.
Well, except for Jamaal, 4-point loss.
Whatever, Jamaal. He's sick.
He's in Arizona. He doesn't count.
We're winning on my
He's
birthday.
on a different time zone.
The Bruins are giving me a big birthday present. Get your post game on Sunday morning, probably. And until next time, Bill, what do we say?
Go Bruins.
Good evening.
Smoke 'em if you got 'em.
That was the What's Bruin show.
Try us tomorrow. Same bat time, same bat channel.
It's gotta be in or out, Mom. In or out. Well, I need the door closed.
Thank you for your cooperation.
Dude, bro, we play some ball on the West Coast.
The final word is boob.